Hey guys, Kevin here from lp24audio.com. How's it going? Today we're doing a follow-up video to Resampling Part 1 in Serum. And if you haven't checked that out, give it a look. Otherwise, let's get moving here. We're going to essentially do some more advanced techniques, ways of playing with the wavetables, with resampling options in Serum. So here's the first one we're going to show you. You can actually, although they don't call it resampling, it's technically that vibe. And say we start off with the sine wave in bend mode, we could actually resample this to be manipulated by wavetable position by just going here and going render ask a warp. Okay, so that's pretty neat. They call it rendering, but in some ways it's resampling it down to the wavetable position knob. Now imagine that is cool enough, but right, we could do some pretty interesting things with that, like keep going with it. For example, let's try maybe sync. Right, sync starts to multiply the waveform into the same time frame. So if we keep going here, render again, turn sync off because it's rendered already. Now you can see this actually affects that portion of it. So you have a standard kind of sync oscillator sound. Now, touching base on some of the other techniques here, we could do things like AM, FM, RM, but I'll show you if we go to FM from sub. Didn't hear anything. Okay, it's pretty scratchy, but see if we go render a warp, which is this, it's not going to let us do that. It says in FM you can't do that, so you just say okay, no problem. And instead we go to resample. Let's resample it to B right now. So we'll keep A intact, and B will be a new shape here. There we go. Pretty wild shape. Very scratchy. It's nice. You get FM style synthesis, but in a wavetable, so it has that kind of quality about it. Of course, looking into effects too, right? We remember you render one bar of LFO, or if your thing's set to BPM rate, it'll render one bar of that movement when you go resample. So say you put a little flanger and you go resample. Let's go resample to A. So we're kind of overriding A, aren't we? Take that flanger off, and here we have it. There's our flange plus FM kind of feel. Okay, so wavetable position's not doing so well, but the timbre's really nice and something I would run with. So here what we might do is go and just highlight some of these. Perhaps you do it more carefully, but I'm just going to grab a couple here and go to morph. Okay, you can crossfade, you can do any of these. They all sound slightly different, and what's going on is slightly different as well. At least that's a smoother transition now. Another trick to show you guys that's super useful is you notice this whole range will render. What if we just want a smaller range to render? Well, you need to consider, let me just grab the basic shape, and you need to consider maybe just grabbing the LFO instead and limiting the range of movement. Remember, Serum resamples one bar of movement, as I've said. Just keep that in mind. And you can do, say, that same sync function, but in a limited band, let's say a limited range. So then we would just go, same thing, render. So keep in mind, you can drag in samples. In Cubase here, and many other DAWs, but not all of them, you can just drag it right and drop it onto the wavetable and then morph between it. You can also do more advanced stuff by going in here and saying how many samples you want to be in a single cycle waveform. For example, 2048. If I just type in that number, that'll allow me to have 2048 distinct moments in time called samples, and that's the window size. Basically, drag in a file, and guaranteed that's 2048 samples. Now, what if we did something like 9,000 samples, okay? Drag in the same file. And notice how the whole waveform fits in there. Okay, so we actually have a kick drum. You know, it sounds buzzy, but that's because with this kind of sample length, you're not going to get that kick drum feel unless you transpose it very low. Now that we have a kick drum sample in oscillator A, let's try some resampling. First I'm going to go copy A to B and try some different movements like a little detuning. And perhaps some of this play with the shape and an LFO. So I'm kind of summarizing what we've talked about before here. And let's do something else with remapping on this guy. And then if we go and resample that to A, here we go. You have a nice complex moving wavetable. So thanks a lot guys for watching, really appreciate it. And if you like these video tutorials we're doing, please subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to check us out on lp24audio.com as well. Thanks again, have a good one.